It was the most powerful hurricane to hit the region in more than a century, and nothing has topped its fury since then. Yet similar storms may have been much more common in centuries past. In fact, a recent study found evidence that 12 hurricanes that came ashore near Cape Cod before 1675 may have been more powerful than anything since then. Scientists drilled into the sediments at the bottom of a pond on the Cape. The pond is behind a sand barrier, so it's protected against puny storms. But big storms wash over the barrier, depositing layers of coarse grains that are easy to pick out. The sediments showed that powerful storms were common between the years 150 and 1150, and again from 1400 to 1675. A dozen of these storms probably were Category 3 or stronger when they hit land. Other studies have shown that the North Atlantic was a good bit warmer than it is today. The heat provided extra fuel for the storms, helping them build to monstrous proportions. Scientists are concerned that warming ocean waters today could cause the same pattern in the decades ahead. Frequent storms that could be at least as powerful as the Great New England Hurricane of 1938. For the University of Texas Marine Science Institute at Port Aransas, I'm Holly Brawley.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Were you involved in an auto accident? Do you know where to go for repairs? Are you tired of getting ripped off by high prices and inferior work? Then visit us at Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, located in Riverside at 6411 Industrial Avenue, Suite A. We have an award-winning team of specialists with more than 40 years of auto body work experience. We were also voted #1 in the Inland Empire by MyFox LA. We work with all major insurance companies and use state-of-the-art equipment to get your car back on the road. We work on all makes and models of cars, including RVs. Our auto paint specialist will make sure the job is done right. At Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, your satisfaction isn't just a goal, it's what drives us. We focus on your needs. Call us for a free estimate at 951-637-1365. That's 951-637-1365. Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint.
Hi, this is Steve Sanchez, and you hear me every weekend on my show talk about the importance of a financial plan, planning for your retirement, planning for your children's college education fund. Unfortunately, most people don't realize that they need to set up a foundation before any good financial plan can come into place. That's where life insurance comes in. Now, most people think life insurance is just an expense, but it's not. It can be a way of life, a standard of living when someone, the breadwinner, is literally removed out of the picture because of a premature death. Look, I believe in it. I've got life insurance for my family, and I want you to find out how easy it is to get life insurance and even qualify through some new non-medical life insurance policies. Look, my friends at eFinancial can help you do this. They're standing by to give you your free life insurance quote today. Call 866-807-9961. 807-9961 for your free life insurance quote today. And don't forget to tell them Steve sent you. Hey, this is Steve Sanchez, and do you know in 2007, I went off to the doctor for a basic checkup, and he informed me, Steve, you got plaque built up around your heart, and you're going to need stents. I informed him, with no offense, doc, I need a second opinion. I go off to a naturopathic doctor, and he introduces me to something called Zango. It's a juice made of the whole mangosteen fruit. You know, the mangosteen fruit has been used for centuries for healing. So, hey, what do I have to lose? I tried it. 3 months later, I go back to my cardiologist, no plaque, no stents, and I'm proud to say 7.5 years later, I'm stint-free, I want to turn you on to Zengo because it's the only true 100% mangosteen fruit juice. It's patented. In fact, the Mayo Clinic is paying attention because they're doing an extensive study because they cannot ignore all the testimonials around the world. I want to give you a free sample of the Zengo juice today. Simply call 888-309-5656. That's 888-309-5656 for your free mangosteen juice sample today from the company called Zengo.
Hey, buddy, I heard the drought's moving in, muscling in on your turf. To make matters worse, the man keeps telling you to limit your spigot. That drought is bad news, no fooling. But me and my boys can help. The Water Boys, on the Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6. We'll help you protect your turf and save water. And hey, don't worry about it. Consider it a gift.
Yeah, Louie, you heard the boss. We gotta listen in at 6 p.m. on Thursday nights.
Okay, Vinny, you got it. The Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6 p.m. I'll tell our lawn it's now protected.
The Water Zone on Kcaa 1050 AM.
Other talk stations use words like savage. Sounds brutal. Hey, it's all good. Your superstation. AM 1050. News Talk KCAA.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought.
Good evening from the mountains to the desert to the oceans to all across America and back to beautiful downtown San Bernardino, California. Welcome to the Water Zone on I'm laughing.
KCAA 1050.
I was laughing at the thing I was going to do next, but that's great. Yes, and this is the Water Zone, and I'm Rob Starr, along with, and today is D-Day. D-Day. So a dazzling, dedicated, delightful, yet dynamic individual who delivers diplomacy into difficult and damaged developments and is diligently determined and devoted to achieving desirable decisions through decisive diagnostic and detailed deductions. Mr. Mike Barron.
Oh my gosh, that's got to be the longest best one ever. So D. You got to tune in next week to hear E.
Yeah.
So, well, hey,
X is going to be a problem.
Well, we'll just see. Maybe we'll have to be creative and add to the alphabet.
Absolutely. So, how was your week? Was it a good week?
Good week. Been real busy and talking to some folks about what's going on with this El Nino, and I learned something interesting, that no two El Ninos are alike.
So they have the same name.
Yes, but it's like, hey, there's no two young guys that are the same either. So El Nino,
unless they're twins,
but well, I'm not going to argue that one with you. But
No.
but the idea here is that a lot of us have been thinking, gosh, if this El Nino comes, thank goodness this drought will be over. And I think it's clear that it's not the case. We would have to get something like 300% of the single most amount of rainfall that we've gotten, say, in the last 100 years, in order to be able to say, we have stored enough water to get the drought. And I heard something else that was interesting. It's if it all comes down in 4 or 5 big storms, we just don't have the capacity to store all that water. Most of that's going to just run off and go into the ocean.
Absolutely.
So those of us that are depending on El Nino, let's ask for one rainstorm every 2 weeks. That'll be just enough to allow our water agencies to collect the water, let it soak into the underground storage areas, and we will refill our underground reservoirs.
Absolutely. I was just listening to Congressman McClintock, and he said that when this comes, 90% of the water that comes to Southern California is going out to the ocean.
Wow.
We can't save it. So that's...
Well, of course, the other thing is what's going to happen in terms of Northern California snow.
Yep.
Because that whole Northern California, eastern northern Sierras acts as a tremendously large water reservoir in the form of snow. And if we get a warm El Nino, probably no snow. So,
well, they said Northern California is going to be due for some. There's a better chance, they said,
snow
as of today. Yes. So that's at least that's what the scientists say. Hey, a couple of weeks ago we had some people from Apple Valley Rancher Water District on.
Yeah.
If you remember. And just something in the news today. Customers in Apple Valley who succeeded in cutting their usage received a rude surprise on their bills. A surcharge for using less water they got today. It's a catch-22 for the water customers. Conserving water means less revenue for water districts, which in turn leads to higher rates. So, but that's going on a lot. And when they reduce water 25%, the cost to operate the continuous operation is really up 33%, from what I heard.
I mean, basically, the fixed costs don't go down when your water, when the amount of water you sell goes down. So, they've got to cover those fixed costs, and they get put into a tough position. Yep. Because there's not enough water to sell, right? Because we all had to cut back 25%. So we still got to cover those fixed costs.
Absolutely. Hey, are you going to buy your grandson coming up for Halloween? Is he buying? You going to buy him pumpkins?
Well, I just know that probably will. We'll probably carve a few pumpkins. Are you going to tell me that the size of the pumpkins has been affected by the drought?
Well, they talk about parched patches. I'm just reading here from some news I got. The drought is taking its toll on pumpkin patches put on by small agritourism farms. And even when farmers are able to grow pumpkins, they might not have enough water for the traditional elements that help create a Halloween wonderland. And a guy was quoted here, says, "We didn't have the water to grow all the sunflowers and the maize, the things that make the patch. I don't want to look at the guy down the road who has just a tent and is throwing pumpkins on the ground." So, and that's happening up in Santa Clarita.
Well, I know that the drought has affected many different industries. It definitely has affected the agricultural community. It's even affected Disneyland.
Yes.
But I'm going to tell you something, that with Star Wars redevelopment going on at Disneyland, they're going to have to drain part of the Rivers of America. And what do you think? Do you think they're going to just let that go down the drain, or do you think they've gotten creative? And
I think Disney is very well adept at sustainable methodologies, and I think they'll capture that and distribute it accordingly. They're very good at that.
Well, they've partnered with the Orange County Water District and their groundwater replenishment system, and they're going to take that water, treat it, and put it into the groundwater basin. And then, when they're done in a couple of years and they want to refill the river, they'll be able to pull that water back out.
At no charge?
I believe that's the case, yeah.
That's a good deal.
Because they're basically delivering the water now and pulling it back later. So that's great. That's good water management.
Absolutely. Well, we have a couple good guests on today. One's a gentleman named Mark Narenga. He's the executive director of the Building Industry Association of Southern California. But they're having an event next 2 weeks from now on the 5th and the 6th at the Riverside Convention Center. And just to let you know what that's about, the 2015 Building Industry Show is the best place for those building and construction industry professionals who are looking to keep up with new products, business practices, and trends in the industry. And the Southern California Trade Show has become the event for local professionals in the building industry to network, promote relationships, and to come share business experiences with a vibrant community of general contractors, builders, and other supporting businesses. So a lot of our listeners who are in those trades, that's a good thing to go to. Those in attendance will have the pleasure of running into their current colleagues, but also the convenience of generating new opportunities and growing their business locally with attendees located right here in Riverside.
It's really about networking opportunities. isn't it?
absolutely.
That really is, relationships in our business, very, very important, and this is where you get a chance to either reconnect or make some new acquaintances.
Absolutely. The show, just so everybody knows, has been going on for 26 years, and it'll make its home at the beautiful Riverside Convention Center near downtown Riverside on November 4th and 5th, and they'll be giving out free passes to and for the building industry professionals who would like to attend. So anybody who's listening who's in those industries and wants to get involved, register online at buildingindustryshow.com and enter the discount code SHOW2015 at checkout. And for anybody listening, for all of those listening actually, our local call-in numbers are 909-888-5222 and outside our area, 888-909-1050. So we'd like to welcome our first guest, Mr. Mark Narenga.
Rob, thank you very much. Mike, thank you too. Glad to be with you, and you're right. It's the 26th Building Industry Show. It's going on November 4th and 5th at the beautiful Riverside Convention Center. And as you said, it's the place to be for people in the construction industry, building industry. We gather together every year, and we'll have about 2,000 attendees, including the leadership and decision makers in the largest building companies in Southern California. And they've told us that what they'd like to see is a lot of new trade partner opportunities, subcontractors, people that actually do work. The industry's expanding, and so they're interested in finding new people to do business with. So that's a big focus of the show. We've got over 90 exhibitors, and they'll be displaying their regular products. In addition, they have some cool new products. We're actually promoting people bringing new products to the show, and we'll have some judging on those products and an award for the cool product. So
excellent.
It should be fun. It should be educational and interesting. And as you said, it's a great networking opportunity to see your old friends and discover new people that you'd like to develop a relationship with.
Absolutely. Mike and I, just for the listeners, are going to be there, and we're going to be speaking with a bunch of new people there who brought some neat products to the industry, and we'll be doing that on the 4th and part of the 5th. So anybody who's listening who's there, want to come and see us, we'll be, I'm not sure of the booth number, but we'll be there. I think it's 425. But we'll be interviewing some of the new technologies that are going to be presented there. And you have a thing called the Spout, which you may want to talk about.
Right. The Spout's interesting kind of new thing that we developed this year. Given the focus on the drought and water, the Spout will be a central location on the show floor, and we'll have people speaking about products, technologies, ideas, designs that address water conservation, both indoors and outdoors. We'll have water district representatives. It's purposely focused on conditions existing today, water conditions, and what can be done about them effectively, both today and into the future as new projects are designed and constructed.
Well, there's been an article out about home building continues despite the drought, and I think you're in a good position to talk about that. I know according to the California Building Industry Association, if they stop doing it, you don't want to pull the plug on $40 billion in economic activity and about 200,000 jobs across California. So how do you see the drought affecting home building?
I see it affecting home building primarily in the way the new products are designed from exterior landscaping. If you remember earlier this year when the governor came out with his executive order mandating 25% generally reduction in consumption, what he didn't do was try and curtail any industries. And as you said, the building industry in California is very large, and it's just beginning to have some vigor again. So the administration didn't want to hamper that or threaten that. So in Southern California, we've had a very good response from our water community, Metropolitan Water District, its member agencies, as well as other districts not part of Met. Those districts have continued to allow and support new development. The information that we get is that they understand that new construction, new development is an integral part of a healthy economy and is necessary given our growth all over California. So what we've done is, we're building today the most water-efficient homes basically in the world. A new home today consumes about 50% less water than a home constructed in 1980. And that 50% equals about the same amount of water that a new home consumes. So essentially by building a new home and using a new home's plumbing system, you're actually saving enough water so that another new home can be supplied. So that's a good thing, and that will continue for the life of that home. So those savings are not one time, but they're annually, and they're going to continue for as long as that home is in service.
Well, Mike and I a couple of weeks ago went to Las Vegas for the Southern Nevada Water.
Wait, you said you weren't going to talk about that. You mean the conference? Okay.
The conference.
Okay.
The conference.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I'll rewind. Anyway, we had seen, and the good thing, I have to say this because it's important, the Toro Company won EPA
WaterSense Manufacturing Partner of the Year.
So we were very proud of that. But besides that, we had there was people there from the fixture device manufacturers for water and such, and they had spoken about how much water they have reduced in their products to come in. So you think because of all this green building, that a lot of builders now have, as of before, they didn't want to jump into it because they thought it added price to the house. But the way I kind of look at it, if you have homes that are energy efficient, you have better windows, you have better air conditioning systems and heaters and all these kind of things, and same with, smart irrigation equipment, you're actually giving the buyer a home that's going to be less expensive to run every single month. You see a lot of builders picking up on that and using that as a marketing advantage?
Yes, they do. We have one builder that I know of actually puts a notice on every house that says, using this house the way it was designed and equipped, you'll save this much money on your operating expenses. That's water, that's electrical, etc. So yes, it's an important part of the marketing and sales of a home. And again, today, homes are so efficient, both from electrical use, natural gas, and water, that it makes a big difference to the homeowner in the amount of money that they end up spending on the operations of the home. So it gives them a little extra disposable or a little bit more money to apply to their mortgage or however they wish to spend that saved money.
Rob and I had talked some months before about the fact that, when each of us went with our spouses to look at a home that we were considering to purchase, the focus was, on the countertops and, the carpeting or the tile,
appliances.
And, the appliances, what things look like. And we didn't really think too much about, how much water is consumed over the course of a year at this home, inside and outside, or how much electricity is consumed and how much will I have to pay for it. And so it's interesting to see maybe the drought has made us all more sensitive to those costs and starting to incorporate those costs into our decision making, as opposed to just looking at what catches our eye. Do you think that that's going to be a trend that continues, where people are becoming more interested in those operating costs, as you mentioned?
I do. I believe they will. I think it's appropriate. It's kind of good physical management, and furthermore, the state of California, through its development of codes, new codes, and implementation of new codes, is going to require that all structures, residential, non-residential, become more and more efficient over the years. And that's one of the things actually we're focusing on at the show. We're going to have a conference that deals with net zero energy and water development. So how do you get there? How do you get to actually a net zero use in a new structure? So yes, I believe this is going to be an ongoing trend, at least certainly for the foreseeable future. And I think it'll benefit the consumer and the home buyer and homeowner. It'll also benefit people who are living in apartments, because apartments are similarly controlled, so that new apartments are much more efficient in all those three areas than apartments that are were built in 1, 2, 3, 4 decades ago. Yeah. So yes, this is going to be, I think, a continuing trend, both out of the need to conserve and also out of a kind of fiscal responsibility.
Yeah. I know a lot of the millennials, for example, they're really cautious on how they spend money. I'll give you an example. You see these commercials, and I'm not putting this company down because they make great automobiles, Mercedes-Benz, and they're marketing it to the millennials really strong. But when you sit down and look at that, some of the millennials say, "Hey, I would really love, that's when you get a Mercedes, you feel you arrived." The problem is, or the issue is, it's $115 for the oil change. Versus a standard car that you probably get for $29. So that, the cost of the operation of something like that, and I think they're looking at that in the homes. That's why I think a lot of home builders who are getting smart and saying, "Hey, look, your mortgage is the biggest nut you got to pay every single month. So how can we give you a wonderful place to live, but an efficient home that'll save you money on your operating expenses?" Because that's important. Years ago, probably when you and I bought our homes, I can tell you in Orange County, the term came up, Yorba Linda poor. And a lot of people bought beautiful homes in Yorba Linda, but that's all they can afford. You drive by there a year later, they still don't have window coverings. They still don't have a backyard. And this is what it was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And, yes, you got the wonderful, at the time, couple $100,000 house, but you got nothing else with it because you couldn't afford to do anything with it.
Well, if they hung in there, they probably have $1 million homes.
That's right. That's right. So,
what do you think is there anything on the horizon that is of most concern to builders in California, whether that be regulatory issues or financing issues? What's the big issue that they're facing?
Mike, I think both of those are a high level of concern. We read constantly that notwithstanding some loosening in the lending guidelines, slight loosening, and notwithstanding efforts to make mortgages available, the first-time buyer cadre is shrinking almost in every reporting period, and much of that has to do with their inability to get financing. So that's an issue. The regulatory environment is very tough in California, and it's getting tougher. That's one of the areas that our association is focusing on, both in Southern California and at CBIA, is looking at one of our big regulations is Kcaa, and when it was passed, the intent was to protect the environment and enhance the environment. But now a study has shown that what's really happening is Kcaa is being used to stop projects, and primarily projects that are trying to implement the policy across the state as far as where to locate new development that is in urban areas. So things like road improvements, schools, urban infill, those are the projects that are, for the most part, being hampered or eliminated through Kcaa lawsuits. So that's a big issue with us.
Wow. Well, we really appreciate your insight and also letting us know about how water is affecting the building industry here in California. And, of course, here at Toro, our sponsor, we're doing what we can and focused on getting those irrigation equipment products that will reduce that water footprint at home. So come out. We just invite the folks to come on out to the BIA
the
show.
Building Industry Show, and I'd just like to say a couple more things about the show, actually. There's events on Wednesday and Thursday. We're going to implement a phone app, too, so people who would like to learn about the show, they can get on our website at Building Industry Show, and if you have an Apple or an Android phone, you can search for Biz Build for the phone app, and you can install it, and when you're at the show or when you'd like to know about the show, you can use that app. So that's going to be a fun thing.
Great. Well, very good. Well, listen, thank you so much. We're here against a hard break, so we are going to sign off, but thank you again for your points and your feedback, and we'll hopefully see you at the show.
I hope so. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the opportunity.
You're very welcome.
Good night.
Good night. You're listening to The Water Zone on Kcaa 1050 AM with Rob and Mike, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Were you involved in an auto accident? Do you know where to go for repairs? Are you tired of getting ripped off by high prices and inferior work? Then visit us at Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, located in Riverside at 6411 Industrial Avenue, Suite A. We have an award-winning team of specialists with more than 40 years of auto body work experience. We were also voted #1 in the Inland Empire by MyFox LA. We work with all major insurance companies and use state-of-the-art equipment to get your car back on the road. We work on all makes and models of cars, including RVs. Our auto paint specialist will make sure the job is done right. At Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, your satisfaction isn't just a goal, it's what drives us. We focus on your needs. Call us for a free estimate at 951-637-1365. That's 951-637-1365. Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
In the mood for some great Chinese food? Well, Mr. Yu's Chinese Food is where you need to be. Mr. Yu's Chinese Food not only has a delicious dinner menu, they also offer delicious lunch specials including their yummy fried rice and chow mein. But get this, it also includes any 2 items just for $5.85. Or you can get any 1 item for only $4.85. You should also try their Big Bowl special for just $4.10. The service is fast and friendly. Mr. Yu's Chinese Food is located at 256 Carousel Mall in San Bernardino, California. To contact Mr. Yu's Chinese Food, call 909-383-0195. Again, that's 909-383-0195. And yes, the Carousel Mall is still open.
That's right.
Kcaa.
Hi, welcome back to the Water Zone Show on Kcaa 1050 AM. This is Rob along with Mike Barron. And you know that Chinese restaurant they just advertised, Mike and I ate there probably the first time when we came here to work on the contracts. And it was really, 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 really good. And they give you lots of food. The only problem And the problem is they close at 6, and our show starts at 6:05, so we lose out. So maybe we'll switch it to an earlier show so we can come and get the food. But it's really good. Now I'm hungry. Yeah. So and I'm on a diet, so that doesn't help much. So this afternoon we had a chance to catch up with a gentleman from Metropolitan Water District. His name is Devin Upadhyay, and let's go to him. Okay, today we'd like to welcome to the show a gentleman from Metropolitan Water District. His name is Devin Upadhyay, and he's the manager of Water Management Resources Group for the Metropolitan Water of Los Angeles, or actually Southern California. So welcome to the show, Devin.
Well, thanks a lot for having me.
Appreciate you coming on the show, and I know a lot of our listeners hear about Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, but they really don't know what that means. Can you just give a 1-minute dissertation on what that is?
Oh, sure. So if you look at Southern California Water, Metropolitan Water District is a wholesaler for providing water supplies in Southern California. If you look at the total amount of water that's used in Southern California, we provide about half of that water in a typical year. We bring water in from the Colorado River and from the State Water Project. So we're the largest contractor for supplies with the state of California through the State Water Project system. And we bring those water supplies into Southern California. We have a network of pipes and major canals that bring that water to the large cities here in Southern California, and we pass that water on to them. So we were brought into being by an act of the legislature about 80 years ago to develop the Colorado River aqueduct system and bring the water from the Colorado River, and then we expanded to bring water as growing needs occurred in Southern California. We expanded to bring water from the State Water Project system. And we also run major conservation and local resources programs in the area to try to sponsor a greater degree of efficiency and demands in the way water is used. And we also help to pay for things like wastewater recycling and groundwater cleanup when it makes sense. So a broad range of activities, but just in general, we're providing about half the water that's used in Southern California.
Well, as a longtime resident since 1959 in Southern California, I want to say that this drought has really brought into the forefront just how much effort, technology, infrastructure goes to reliably delivering quality water to all of us Southern Californians. So a belated thank you for all the efforts that MWD has undertaken to make that happen. I think we typically don't hear, we hear directly from our water agency that sells us our water, and that's a retail agency, but your organization is the one that gets that water oftentimes to that retail water agency, correct?
Oh, that's right. And, it really is a team effort, if you will, in terms of the way that we work with other water agencies and even cities here in Southern California to try to provide reliable supplies. And it's not, one thing that does that. As you guys know, it's really an investment approach you can almost imagine it's like a mutual fund approach to investing in water supply, the way people think about their own retirement. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so our philosophy over the years has been you need to look at the investments in the State Water Project and the Colorado River and stabilizing those imported supplies. But you also need to look at things like storage, very, very important. You mentioned the drought and how severe this drought has been, but it often gets lost on folks that even within this drought, it's like a 9-year drought cycle that we're in. 2010 and 11 were actually a very wet period, and so it produced a lot of water we were able to store. And that's helped buffer the region. We've been able to draw on that storage to help us survive through the drought period. Well, if you didn't have those facilities to capture that water in, then you wouldn't have been able to do that, and we would have been worse off. So it's a real investment campaign with a lot of different buckets that we're putting our investment in to make sure that we're reliable.
Well, I know a lot of other water agencies like Orange County Water District is doing things about recycling. So what role will water recycling play in your region's future?
That's a great question. If you look at, say, going as far back as like the 1980s, the early 1980s, recycling of water was not really on the picture for Southern California. There was a little bit going on, and The focus at the time was thinking about how recycled water could become a bigger part of the picture. At that time, it was what we call purple pipe projects. Projects that would take wastewater, they would treat it, and then use it for outdoor irrigation. You'd use it in public parks, golf courses. You saw a lot of that. And over time, it's become a larger piece of the pie. And it's through those purple pipe projects, but it's also through things like indirect potable reuse. And what that is that's agencies treating wastewater, cleaning it up to the standards that, you'd be able to drink the water. In fact, in many cases, it's higher quality water than your surface supplies. And then what they're doing is they're taking that water and putting it into the groundwater basins, letting it infiltrate into the groundwater basins, and then later in time you're able to pump that water out through your groundwater pumping facilities and use it. And those things combined have resulted today in recycled water being somewhere between 10 to 15% of the water that's used in Southern California. So it's really grown where it wasn't really on the map 30 years ago.
Devin, was there a significant event that kind of triggered an acceleration of investing in recycled water in that indirect potable reuse approach, or was it just a gradual increasing recognition that another source of supply was required for the growing population?
It wasn't as gradual as I think we would want to paint it to be. It was frankly a reaction to what happened in the last really major drought that we had. It was back in the late 80s and early 90s. You might recall that at that time, similar to what we're going through now, at that time, people were saying, this is the worst drought we've ever seen. And what are we going to be able to do to have reliable supplies in the future? So coming out of that late 80s, early 90s period, Southern California embarked on a planning process that led to a lot of investments being made. It led to Diamond Valley Lake. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of where that is. It's a major surface water reservoir in Riverside, and so we invested in that as a region to bolster our storage supplies. We invested in groundwater cleanup projects throughout Southern California, and part of the notion there was that we wanted to be able to use the groundwater basins in Southern California to capture more water when it's available, but there were areas that had contamination, plumes. So we started focusing on trying to provide funding to clean those up, and when you clean those plumes up, then you can use those basins for storage again. And we also started to focus as a region on wastewater recycling and really increasing that. So recycling was part of the picture and part of the focus, but it was really investments in a number of areas, not just recycling, that kind of was spurred coming out of that last drought cycle.
I remember Miracle March in 1992. That's
right.
When the irrigation industry was saved from potential extinction. I just remember that so clearly. So, you go back 5 years to 87 when that drought first started, but it's interesting how the criticality of lack of rainfall in Southern California drove an awareness and then action, and here we are where it's from basically zero to maybe a maximum of 15% of our water supply. I mean, we would not have been able to make it through this point in this 4-year drought had we not had that change of perspective back in the late 80s.
No, I agree with you, and it's an evolution of sorts in the sense that I think we learn from each drought cycle, and frankly, even now, here we are in this drought cycle, we are revamping and kind of reassessing where things are and what we can do going forward now. I think that one of the things that we're hearing a lot about and we're pushing the discussion on and engaging in is even more what can be done in the areas of recycling that will help to provide a more reliable future, say 20 years from now, 25 years from now. So that's one of the topics that we're very interested in, and frankly we're also very interested in things like outdoor water use as kind of the new frontier for conservation, and what can be done in that area that will help out also.
In your inner circle thinking, how do they look at the recycling versus desalination versus storage? I mean, those three things can kind of help solve a lot of problems. If you had to put it in place of an order of how your industry looks at that, of what's the most prominent or the one that we should tackle first, or maybe all in parallel, what do you think?
I do think that there is room for all three in the portfolio of things that you'd be pulling from to be reliable. Now, with that said, storage is key. And we've already invested quite a bit in storage. Where we can do better is in the way that you manage surface supplies with groundwater. And I think that's really important. The groundwater basins are a natural storage tool here in Southern California, and the more that we're able to utilize those basins and manage them cooperatively here in Southern California, the better. And what I mean by that is if you look, over the last 10 years, this is a pretty strong drought period. Even within those 10 years, we've had some opportunities to be able to capture water and to store it. And going forward, you guys, have probably had folks talk with you about climate change and the impacts of climate change. What we're seeing is that the state of science for California is basically saying that the precipitation in the state of California may actually be about the same. The difference is that it's probably going to be more focused on rainfall and less on snowfall and snowpack. And what that does is, right now, we're able to rely on snowpack as a reservoir, if you will, in the wintertime. And so it falls, and then as it melts over the spring and into the early summer, you're getting the benefit of that supply coming gradually over time. We're basically going to be losing that storage, for lack of a better term, and so that puts all the more onus on us to be able to manage the water when it does come down from the mountains more quickly and, perhaps in more lumpy patterns, to be able to get it into the storage that we do have. So I think that's a key priority for us. We've made investments, but now we really need to manage it well. The other thing I would say is both recycled water and seawater desalination are things that have a real local flair to it. And what I mean by that is it's water in your backyard. And so, we do need to put a priority on some of the things that would help develop recycled water a little bit more and seawater desalination a bit more in the future. The permitting process for seawater desalination takes quite a while in the state of California, so we can look at ways to streamline that, and so there are a lot of thoughts about that out there, but that might be one thing that helps. And with respect to recycling, we've done the purple pipe projects, we've done the indirect potable reuse, and I think we're going to be doing even more of that going forward. But the other area that we haven't really touched on is direct potable reuse. And I think there's some desire to talk about that and to take a look at that. There isn't a permitting path for direct potable reuse right now. And so that's something that I think water agencies, you asked about the kind of inner circle discussions, that's one of the things that agencies are looking at is, what would be a path to direct potable reuse that really protects public health but also creates a new water supply.
So I know we all hear about this gigantic El Nino that's coming, and some of it's predicted that it will go to Northern California, which we need up in the mountains for the snowpacks and such. California, in the southern part, it's so dry, and it's almost like a sponge that isn't wet, and the ground is so hard. We're going to see a lot of water just get wasted. And so, what do you see the supply forecast in the future of 5 years going into the fifth year of drought? Because I don't think even with the El Nino we're going to be out of this, and I don't think we're going to say, hey, it's over and you can use all the water that you want.
I don't think we'll ever hear any responsible water agency ever say you can use as much water as you want. I think they're probably, I would just but Rob brings up a very good point, because I've heard that said that up to a third of our water supply in a normal rainfall, snowfall year is stored in that snowpack. And I don't know would you agree that can it be that? Is it really that high? Do you know?
I can't speak to that statistic, although I would say I believe it is a very high number because most of the water that we get really is in that snowpack and in the snow melt that occurs in the spring and the early summer months. So it wouldn't surprise me. And to respond to something that you said a little earlier about the El Nino, the first thing is El Nino is happening. We know that, and by that I mean the warming of the Pacific Ocean temperatures it's really significantly higher than normal, and that's what El Nino is. The question is, well, whether El Nino brings significantly wetter weather than normal, and obviously there are a lot of predictions about that, and we're hopeful. We're not seeing that yet in terms of California and impact of California, but if that does happen, we have to think about a couple things. One of them is how do we capture the water that we can to kind of reset the table just in case the drought continues after that year. And I think we're pretty well prepared to do that. We do have a fair amount of storage available, although I think you guys are right. You're going to see a lot of water that does run off and goes into the storm drain system. But the other aspect of it is the potential lost momentum with folks thinking about efficiency. And you make a great point that no water agency is going to be out there saying, okay, everybody, you can use, all the water that you want, but we are going to have to work against, I think, a natural inclination people might have to think, oh, it's raining a lot now. This must mean that the drought's over and I don't need to pay as much attention to being efficient anymore. And that's it's unfortunately not the case. We really need efficiency to be kind of a day-to-day ethic that we have here in Southern California and California overall.
How do you guys work with the flood control people in Southern California? Because I would assume that they're looking at measures. I know up in Northern California they're looking at all these different things of how can they divert some of that water and return it back. And is that something that you have projects going on with them?
Right. So there's both at the local level and at the statewide level, even up in Northern California, that we're working with. At a local level, some of the primary entities that are responsible are the counties and the Army Corps of Engineers. So they operate a number of dam projects on the river systems here in Southern California that, as storms occur, you see water build up behind these dams. And they're able to operate that in coordination with the agencies that manage the groundwater basins. And so they'll release water from those dams into spreading facilities that allow water to infiltrate into the groundwater basins. And the challenge is when you get a number of deluges come in, the primary responsibility and mission of, say, the Army Corps and the county flood control districts is the protection of public property and life. So they can't allow too much water to build up behind those reservoirs without starting to release it because of the flood risk. So it's a real balancing act. Part of it depends on the nature of the storms. And I've heard some of the groundwater basin managers talk about the perfect storm system is maybe a storm every 2 weeks. So it rains a little bit and you see some water collect in those dams and they're able to kind of release it over a period of time. But if you get just one huge system that comes in, then it can overwhelm the capacity to store and you have to start releasing that water because of the flood risk. So it's a real balancing act.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. We're going to run up here to a commercial. We do appreciate everything that you told our listening audience, and if they have any questions, they can obviously go to your website, which is?
Our website is mwdh2o.com, and I would also give a plug for the fact that we're in an update of our planning process, and that website is mwdwatertomorrow.com if people are interested in knowing what we're looking at for the future.
And there's also some great rebates that you guys do, which we'll give on the rest of the show here, so we appreciate that.
And just to reinforce, the more folks we talk to from MWD and the water agencies, the member agencies, the more I get impressed in terms of the people that are very knowledgeable, very dedicated, it seems, to the target of making sure that reliable water is delivered on 24/7. And so you fit very well into that group. So thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the time.
Oh, we certainly appreciate it. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to KCAA 1050 AM on the Water Zone with Mike and Rob, and we'll be back in a minute.
Oh, we're back. That was quick. That was a quick minute. But you know what? It's important. That was very informative. Devin's a great guy, and I'm glad he came on the show, and we appreciate Metropolitan Water for letting him do that. One of the things that's important to talk about is drip, but I don't mean the medical drip. I mean water drip.
Personality drip. Oh, wait a second.
There you go.
Or even the personality drip, right?
Yeah.
But yes, landscape drip has become very, very popular given all of the focus on reducing water use in outdoor landscapes. But one of the things we need to remember is that when we convert from a traditional spray system or spray zone that might be watering our shrubs, and we want to convert to landscape drip, whether it's point source emitters where you actually install individual emitters near the root zone of each plant, or whether you use what's called drip line, which is polyethylene tubing with pre-installed emitters every 12 or 18 inches apart, you have to remember that you're going from a system that you measure in gallons per minute to gallons per hour. So think about this. If your normal spray system is discharging 10 gallons per minute, how many gallons per hour would that be, Mr. Mathematical Genius?
That's a lot. But the most difficult thing is people turn their controller for a long time. They think it's got to run for an hour and a half.
And really, it doesn't, especially if you put 2 rows of drip line tubing, 1 gallon per hour each emitter every 12 inches.
Right.
Guess what? The application rate of that is about the same as a conventional spray system. So if you were running your spray system 10 minutes, guess what? You might as well just run 10 minutes with your drip system, because you're putting the same amount of water down, but you're being much more efficient. All of the water's getting to the ground and to the root zone instead of maybe hitting your window or
get blown away. And also the placement of that is important. A lot of people think they got to put it right at the base of the plant, which is not true. You don't want to do that.
So with when you're actually placing emitters near or at your root zone of a plant, what you want to do is typically put 2 emitters 180 degrees apart from one another at about what we call the drip line, which is where your leaves would cast the shadow if the sun was right overhead.
The canopy.
The canopy, right. The canopy will just project the canopy down to the ground. That's the drip line. That's where you want to put your emitters 180 degrees apart from one another. Or what I like is the 1/4 inch drip line, which you can purchase at many of the big box stores or the Ace Hardware stores, which I like just because you always get some good advice.
Ace is the place.
Yeah. So hey, and they don't even have a commercial on our show. But seriously, that 1/4 inch drip tubing has 1/2 gallon per hour emitters pre-installed every 6 inches, and you just make a loop, put a T in there, connect it to your lateral line or where your source of your water is, and then you just mulch over and you wet the root zone very, very completely. I really like that because you don't have anything sticking up that can be damaged by the maintenance effort.
Unless you have gophers.
That's true, but the tubing is so small they kind of can't see it.
Yep. So. Well, I think that does it for another show today, Mike, and it was very informative, and we had great guests. Next week we're going to have some really good guests.
Yeah, and by the way, if you have any questions, shoot us an email at torowatersmart.com. Visit our website with information, and let us know if you have any questions.
We're here to help you get out of the drought. Good night, people.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Exploring science and the sea. For those of us who have a tough enough